Hello, I'm Sarah Nell Rodriguez, and welcome to the Career Download. And we have Lawrence today for Honest Careers. He comes to us from Colorado and outside of Boulder, a town called Longmont. And that is a new town to me, actually. Boulder, not so much. Longmont, yes.
Yeah,
So, welcome, Lawrence. Thank you for being here.
of course. Excited to be here, Sarah.
All right, since this is all about honest careers, we get right into it. Are you ready for some questions?
Bring him.
Excellent. All right, we ask a really hard one first. Your age.
I am 32.
32. You are officially our youngest person we've had on here.
I don't know how that makes me feel in multiple ways, but it happens.
No, I love it because I want different backgrounds, different age groups. So I love that we have someone. Our first two people were both 51. So
Okay. Yeah. It's careers and everything so much across the different spans. There's so much that happens and across the different ages. So, it's always good to get all those perspectives.
I totally agree. All right. So you are 32. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, originally I'm from Michigan, a town called Howell. Um, from there, I lived there until I was 13, moved to Iowa for a few years, and then I've been here in Colorado for about 16, 17 years. I'm trying to remember how much. But yeah,
Midwester at heart or
yes.
Midwesty?
Yes, I'm a Michigander at heart always.
Love it. Midwest heart beating in this person here. All right. So tell me a bit about you personally, a bit about your home life.
Yeah, so live by myself, no, nothing really crazy there because of how things are, like with apartments and all the things of pet deposits and costs and all of that stuff. Nope, nope, no pets, no plants. I'm not, a plant individual, but yeah, no, live on my own. Have I'm in my office now, so it's nice. I've got the space and the ability to not separate my work from everything else in my life here. So, outside of that, I'm typically at small different events, data events, some fun little things. I've got one of my favorite restaurants here that does like a Detroit style pizza actually called Urban Field is in my complex. So I always go down there and that's like one of my favorite spots since they do have the square, really nice pizza. So
I feel like that's a conversation we could have is your favorite style of pizza. Detroit style pizza is a great pizza though.
oh yeah, no, my favorite type of pizza, like it would be the square Detroit style pizzas, preferably pepperoni or sausage, or meat lovers in general for me. I don't really go crazy with all the others, in that way, but they've got there's a lot of good things out there. Though pizza today is not on my mind, with it being Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras, or for me being from the Midwest, Punchki Day. That's what it is for me. So in my heart.
I think I can guess at one of your hobbies then. Do you enjoy food?
Yes, I do enjoy food. It's one of the things that I always try and do is wherever I go, if there's restaurants or whatever, try and find good poutine. I think that's a thing for me. There's a couple of restaurants around here that have some pretty good poutine styles and their own unique flavors, but I am a foodie, in general. I do.
Are there any other hobbies that you indulge in besides that?
Yeah, so personal data is a hobby for me. That's become kind of some
Your
things, just visualization. Yes, data. Lego, building, doing those style things. I've got like a bunch of sci-fi style models and things around here, so some of those things. The general like reading, primarily sci-fi fantasy books, but of course I do read some of the more self-help data style books. The amount of to be read that I have that comes from the data book club that's out there is I buy them every time they note a book, and I plan on doing the club. I never take the time to do it, and so I've just got a to be read pile from that. Outside of that, yeah, no. Food, Lego, modeling, model building, I should say. Um, TV, some video games here and there, but nothing crazy there.
What would you say are some of the main priorities that you focus on in your life right now?
That I focus on in my life right now, the priorities are, of course, my career, my day job, making sure I have that and able to keep my standard of living that I've come up into. From there, it's socializing, seeing friends, seeing people, really staying connected. I've got friends that I've made here that have moved into different areas of the country, so always making sure that I see them. Um, Traveling is also one of my priorities. Going to either see friends in those places and where they are, or just going somewhere new and just taking those kind of breaks. Are where I'm at. I'm getting ready to look at moving, so that's kind of taken over a lot of my priorities. By the end of the year, plan on moving out of Colorado. So there's a lot of that shuffling and prioritization in my life right now.
Okay. Let's look at let's go to your career now. Now that
Mm-hmm.
we have a bit more understanding of you personally, your priorities, what drives you at the moment. Let's go back in time a little bit. Did you go to college?
I did, but not in the traditional sense of going to college. I was already well into my career when I started retaking and going to school. Um, outside, once I graduated high school, I was taking a community college class here and there, but wasn't focused, wasn't really doing what I should. Incurred a lot of debt doing that. But I was working retail, just doing the just right after college, just or right after high school work. Um, and then after a few years, got into my career in tech, and then after doing several years of that, got back into doing my schooling. I didn't earn my associate's degree until 2 years ago. So,
Oh, okay. What was your associates in?
business administration. So my focus was business administration, trying to look at I've got all the tech skills and I've got a lot of the, background in business from project to some of the HR side and things like that. I wanted more of the top level side of it, the having that degree on that business side when I already kind of have the tech in there, just from my experience.
Okay. Can you share a bit about what industry you work in today?
Yeah, currently I work in the financial applications fintech area, um, but I work in the human resources and people side of it. I've worked in financial services or supported financial services areas for the majority of my career. Previous to this role, it was another financial services company. And then previous to that, it was contracted based um, airline industry style work, and then previous to that was tech.
Okay. Um, and so it sounds like when you first started working, you were in retail too, but now you're in the fintech space. Can you talk a bit about how you moved from the retail space into where you are today?
Yeah, no. So I'd worked in the retail space since high school, customer service primarily, and that's where I was. And then out here in my area, in the Boulder area, there's a lot of tech companies, a lot of big areas. And one of them did a lot of third contracted tech support. And I liked electronics, I liked tech in that area. And so I had applied and went through that and got a role working as part of IT service desk for a financial services company, contracted to a financial services company. And so I did that for several years in that. role, I went from level 1 to starting to do some data on service desk analytics, and but with like Excel and learning pivot tables. Before I started doing that, all I knew in the spreadsheet was type in numbers into a cell. Like that's where it was, but it grew. And within that, I worked in my way through like level 2 tech support, even some side assistance level 3 escalations, and subject matter experts on hardware and software moves changes in the tech space for a big company. And then moved into service desk leadership for running, it was 100 plus people, agents, maybe 200 something odd, across multiple countries, the US, some in Canada, some in India, and those areas, and supporting anywhere from when we first started on calls, 1,000 plus calls a day, to went down by the end, somewhere between, depending on the day, 200 to more. And then moved on in, and that was all that was tech supporting financial services. Uh, After that, I moved into data supporting tech. So my focus, I got my first full data analytics role where I learned more skills outside of Excel and VBA. So I learned SQL, I learned Tableau, I learned all these different things, and even more project management style and more analytics cycle in general. But that was focused on learning and development. So the reskilling and upskilling of employees and all the data around that, and connecting based upon skills like learning at people's training, such as like myself, someone in service desk who was taking analytics training, Tableau training, or SQL training, and connecting them into new roles and helping people upskill or reskill into new areas. Did that for about a year and a half for tech, and then spent about 6 months post a layoff, right in the middle of COVID, working on my degree, and then went into contracted airline areas and analytics, predictive maintenance, then moved on back into financial services, and then have been in there for about the past 2 years, 2.5.
So you've experienced a lot of change, it sounds like,
Yes.
in your career. How would you say your expectations from when you first started working in that customer support type role to where you are now? How have your expectations changed for yourself?
Okay, for myself, because expectations, that can go anywhere. My expectations for myself have changed a lot. For when I first started in tech, when I was just taking a level 1 phone calls or just starting to take level 1 phone calls, it was get through, understand, get through the day, figure it out. Like it was definitely a change. I had all these soft skills, the empathy, the ability to talk through customers, the ability to, hear them and de-escalate and do those things. And I had some of the tech skills, but at the same time, I didn't have all of them. So it was a lot of learning. And my expectation for myself was to just learn and then try and move and see where I could find myself. Now my expectations are, doing my job well, but adding in more layers and governance from make sure I'm adding in more layers and governance so that the work that I'm doing or that is being done is equitable and is being seen from multiple lenses. So one of the things that I always look at and I have within my expectations for myself is look at data in more than just the context of how I would see it. Get input from others, especially if the data is looking at different groups. I work in people analytics, so now, and I did way back in the day, and a lot of that is focused on, gender, race, sexual orientation, all of these different notations. And sometimes the people looking at them see it from their point of view when they're looking at the data and, filter it and do things like that and come with expectations. My focus is always to look at it broader, outside of what I would filter and what I would see. If you have data on someone that doesn't have the same thought process as you or is just anything, figure out what it's how they would look at it, get their input. So that's kind of my expectation, is making sure I'm doing that and, pushing from that equity lens in the data perspective.
Okay. So rather than focusing on how you can up level yourself and apply your learning, now you're trying to be inclusive of bringing other people into that experience, finding out what's important to them while they're going
Yes.
through this. Those are very different skill sets that you've had to exercise in.
Yes. No, I think they all come from a base of like empathy and trying to understand, in customer service, you put yourself into other people's shoes to try and, resolve an issue. If it's not something, try and understand,
Mm-hmm.
where they're coming at and listen. And when it comes to the data and even any equity work, I do a lot of DEI work in multiple different areas. It's making sure that individuals' voices are heard, are understood, and are shown. Because I, as a cis white male, do not have the same life experiences as anyone else, no matter what. And so how I look at things and how a lot of things in tech have been looked at, algorithms, loans, things like that, have been under the guise of cis white males. I work to reduce that and bring in the conversation, because it's better solutions at the end of the day when it's not just one view, it's multiple. Wisdom of the crowd is kind of what I look at and say with that.
So we're about to wrap up with this, and I want to get into some advice that you've received over the years as
Mm-hmm.
we conclude. Has there been any advice you've received from someone that's really stood with you throughout the years of your career?
Yes. One of them for me, actually, that's kind of only over the past few years kind of hit and gone forward, was for me personally, is going and getting a diagnosis. Was say, hey, go get a diagnosis, go talk to these people, for ADHD. So I am neurodivergent, and I had someone who is one of my biggest mentors get late in life diagnosed with ADHD. And I'd been thinking about it, looking TikToks out there. If you've gone through that, you see a lot of things being like, oh, if it's like this, go talk to, a psychiatrist to actually be diagnosed. And I went and did, and that diagnosis reaffirmed so many things in my past and has helped me move forward in my life, in my future, with coping and different things there. So, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice that I've seen. But also, I think be open be open and understanding, and build areas around you that people can be vulnerable and safe is some of the biggest advice as well. Because for the longest time, I would be more focused on me and on my solutions and my career and my areas and me getting things done, and not hearing other people's perspectives, and not creating space where people could be themselves and could not talk in the ways that and provide solutions. Being less egocentric, focusing on myself in that kind of way actually helps more. And allowing people to be open and vulnerable in a safe space, just like myself, allows for better solutions, better ideas, better for the whole, and also creates a space where failure is learning, not a bad thing. It's be safe to put out an idea, to fail and move on and learn from it, not feel ridiculed from it.
I think that's a great line to end on. Failure is learning, because I also firmly believe that very strongly. You don't learn things by knowing how to do them, right?
Correct. correct. You learn it's, what is it in agile? It's fail fast, and iterate upon that is kind of what they do. And it's true, but you have to have the safety and the ability and the safety to be able to fail and know that, you can keep moving on and keep going, not from that perspective.
I love that. I think that's a great way to end. Lawrence, thank you for being here. And thank you to our listeners. And here's another episode of Honest Careers with someone who was willing to share their journey. Please be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode.